You're getting suckered again by those who think you don't know anything, but after watching this, you won't be naive or gullible anymore. Hello and welcome back to our Retire Early lifestyle. Let's start with the food lie. Everyone tells you to move abroad to get healthy. They say the food is organic, the air is clean, and the lifestyle is stress-free. But after living it for 13 years, we're calling it out. It's the move abroad health trap. The food isn't organic, it's sprayed. We made a video of it being sprayed by the indigenous farmers themselves. We've always bought farm fresh organic whole wheat kernels here in the USA before going abroad. We usually purchased whole wheat by the 20 to 50 pound bag. And when we got there, we sought to do the same thing. We grind it up into flour ourselves, kind of like grinding your own coffee. It's super fresh and high quality food and makes really good baked goods. When we asked the local vendor in Cuenca, Ecuador if it had chemicals, they said no. Then we pressed a little further. We said we thought we could smell chemicals on the wheat. After a little prodding and pushing, the vendor conceded that the wheat had been sprayed. In his words, just a little. The same story happened when we moved out into the country in Yunguilla Valley. We were purchasing vegetables from local farmers. Wash, rinse, repeat. The same thing exactly. They said it was sprayed. Just a little. So if you think the fresh food is safer than a U.S. grocery store, you're in for a brutal surprise. Not only is the so-called organic food not guaranteed to not have been sprayed, just a little, but is non-processed food worth the risk of E. coli or heavy metal contamination in local soil? If you can't peel it, cook it, or boil it, don't eat it. That's the rule for survival for expats in many paradise destinations. If you're moving to an agricultural country like Ecuador, Thailand, Mexico, Costa Rica, you name it, you should know the small to medium crop farmer doesn't guarantee safe food. Untreated river water contaminated with human and animal waste and chemicals is used for irrigation. In the U.S., you do worry about chemicals. In your local paradise, you're fighting biological warfare of parasites and chemicals. We know this for a fact, as we lived in Ecuador for 8 years in total. Yes, the rivers in Cuenca, Ecuador are currently facing significant contamination issues related to various chemicals. Recent studies have indicated that many of the high Andean rivers in Ecuador, including those in the Cuenca area, show concerning levels of pollutants. The farmers in Ecuador told us themselves they use the river for irrigating the crops, and we saw their piping from the river going onto the cabbage and broccoli plants. Contamination levels are pretty high. A study evaluating water quality found that heavy metals such as cadmium, arsenic, and lead exceeded safety limits. The risk of cancer from cadmium also surpassed acceptable thresholds across all tested rivers. Microbial pollution, fecal coliform levels, a measure of microbial contamination, were also found to be high, further indicating poor water quality, which poses health risks. Threat to health, the research suggested that approximately 100% of the rivers in Ecuador were rated as having marginal to poor water quality during the dry season, affecting not only recreational use, but also making them unsuitable for human consumption in most cases. The water from the rivers goes directly onto your food, and that is a high health risk and is really unsuitable for human consumption, like they said. Do you think this is only happening in Ecuador? Do you think you can simply just wash your produce in iodine or lemon juice and you're good to go? You can boil away parasites and bacteria, but you can't boil away heavy metals that are in the rivers in Cuenca and other countries. Another thing is, our whole family got parasites in Cuenca, Ecuador, just like everyone that moves there does. We couldn't figure out how we got parasites since we filtered the tap water with our Berkey setup system. To make a long story short, we got infected with amoebas from our broccoli. If you can't peel it, cook it, or boil it, don't eat it means don't eat it. Why would broccoli have parasites? Because it's irrigated straight from the rivers in Cuenca, that's how. Broccoli has a lot of dense clusters and they live on the produce. Boil all vegetables and then hope that the carcinogens from the river won't give you any kind of health issues. These microscopic organisms live inside the produce. A vinegar soak won't save you from what's in the tissue of a strawberry. Where do you think the grocery stores and outdoor food markets called mercados get their produce? From the local farmers, the same farmers that are irrigating the crops with dirty river water. Again, don't think this is just happening in Ecuador. The rivers in Bangkok, particularly the Chao Phraya River, which are used for irrigation and agriculture, are contaminated with various pollutants. The sources of this contamination include untreated wastewater, industrial discharges, and agricultural runoff. In this graph, it's showing the pollution sources and what's in them, and the water quality index. In Thailand, over 80% of the plastic waste entering the Gulf of Thailand is attributed to that Chao Phraya River. The health risks are huge. Pollutants pose not only ecological risks, but also potential health hazards for communities that rely on these waters for irrigation. Potential health hazards for communities that rely on these waters for irrigation. This is why people get infected with parasites when they go abroad, and is why many others become ill for weeks and months, even after they come back home to clean water. Do you think this is only happening in Ecuador and Thailand? Anyone who tells you that you have to leave the USA because it's healthier abroad is lying to you. Most developing countries irrigate their crops with water directly from a contaminated river. Many of you know that we've lived and traveled around the world for 13 years. We had the very same experience in southern Italy. We ran into a public notice posted in the town square outlining why the water was contaminated with sewage. We'll spare you all the details in the interest of brevity. Everywhere we went, we had contamination issues. And yes, even in Republic of Georgia, it's pervasive. The majority of the world is endemic. It's an unfortunate fact that we had to learn the hard way thanks to the hushed atmosphere within the expat communities, online and offline, because no one talks about this. No one. It's funny because here in the USA, most people understand that when they are buying of anything, it doesn't matter what it is, it's always buyer beware, right? I mean, if you're trying to buy a used car, do you ask the seller if it's a good car and call it a deal? Or do you check it out yourself and have it checked by a mechanic? When you buy a home, do you just ask the seller if it's in good condition and call it a day? Or do you have the home inspected by a certified inspector? Why is this any different when we go abroad? What comes to your mind when you hear the term vested interest? Do you think about a large home builder maybe? A condo developer? A chain of tourist shops? Yes, it is all of those. But, and this is huge, the friendly vlogger and local expat facilitator is also a vested interest. All of those expats that are so eager to help you, either for a fee or because they own property to rent or for sale, are all vested interest. And as such, they cannot be depended upon to give you the real scoop. It's just an unfortunate fact of life. We have to ask you this question. Does the lower cost of living in cheaper countries really outweigh the health impact of poor air quality, undrinkable tap water, and dirty irrigation methods? Air pollution in Southeast Asia, like in the country of Thailand, is a contributor to poor health. Hope you're sitting down. Don't be drinking anything hot. Here it is. Comparison of air pollution in the USA compared to Thailand. High-impact health risks in Thailand include respiratory issues and premature death. Anyone who already has COPD or other lung bronchial type issues or even smokes should not move to air-polluted countries in Southeast Asia. Did you know the rice grown in Southeast Asia is actually unhealthy? This is really a challenge for people on low incomes that resort to rice as a staple. It's unfortunate that stewardship of the world's food supply is becoming so contaminated it is unfit for human consumption. Yes, rice grown in Thailand has been found to contain high levels of contamination, particularly from arsenic and cadmium. Now let's talk about the alpha-gal syndrome from the tick. We got this comment recently, and this just goes to show how people are influenced by the media believing that the USA is the worst country in the world. They don't even do a lick of research for themselves. They just listen to the propaganda media and believe everything they hear. Case in point, this silly comment. Other countries have actual food and not chemical slop. And they also don't release ticks that are causing mass alpha-gal syndrome. Okay, so let's talk about this. The first thing this person said is other countries have actual food and not chemical slop. Well, we just debunked that one, didn't we? Showing how contaminated the rivers are in developing countries. And that's just 3 countries. I just picked 3 countries because the videos are getting too long. You know, you can look at any of the countries that you want in Asia and Latin America and it'll be the same thing. Other countries don't release ticks with alpha-gal syndrome. Really? Then what's this? Countries where alpha-gal syndrome has been reported: the United States, Australia, Japan, and South Korea, European countries, Africa, and Asia. The prevalence of alpha-gal syndrome has been documented in 17 countries across all continents except Antarctica. Here are some of the specific countries where cases have been reported in Europe: Germany, France, Sweden, Norway, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, Austria, and Poland. All right, let's talk more about Mexico. Is it healthier food lifestyle in Mexico? In Mexico, several regions rely on irrigation from rivers that are contaminated, raising concerns about environmental and health risks. Here's some of the areas: Yaqui Valley, located in Sonora, Mexico. Mosquito Valley, this is near Mexico City. They have untreated wastewater for irrigation. Well, at least they're being transparent about it. I think that's really good. Hidalgo includes areas around Tula. Irrigation using wastewater from Mexico City is common here. So this is what they're putting on the food that you buy at the mercados and grocery stores. It's the same thing. You can go to any country you want in Latin America and Asia and you're going to find the same thing. I don't have time to do 5-hour videos. The use of this wastewater raises health concerns due to the presence of pathogens and heavy metals and other pollutants, putting the health of both the local population and consumers of the crops at risk. Mexicans probably don't even know this stuff. Look, the produce is so contaminated in other countries we had to stop eating produce sold in the USA that is imported from Mexico. Last year, we bought some strawberries imported from Mexico in the U.S. Walmart because we make kefir smoothies with strawberries and things like that. Well, not anymore. The strawberries made us so sick with the same symptoms of getting infected with Entamoeba histolytica parasite that is endemic in Latin America and Southeast Asia. We had to stop eating anything we couldn't peel, cook, or boil from foreign countries that were imported to the United States, period. Yes, this is real, folks. We should have known better. Strawberries are one of those fruits that have these little crevices on them where amoebas can hide and live indefinitely. We did the research, we know. Here is an interesting comment we got from our last video. This is not a one-off thing either, folks. People with already compromised immunities move to these countries and become infected with parasites and or a bacteria and become really ill or worse. You're right about the water. Imperial beach water destroyed by Mexican sewage. Governor spent billions on saving the horny-toed frogs instead of ocean and sewage issues. My cousins got E. coli and almost died. They sold their home and moved to Havasu, Arizona. So people have to leave. They can't stay in this environment. Many people have to leave. So all you people that think you're moving abroad to a healthier utopia, think again. You've been suckered again. You know, the solution in the USA for people who say the food is killing them, you don't have to eat processed foods, you know. Most people would be much healthier and slimmer and have a better outlook on life if they just quit eating processed foods, and that is the fact of the matter. We do have choices in the matter of our health. We can choose to simply cook, and we don't have to spend long hours in the kitchen cooking meals either. You can cook simply and be healthy. We don't eat processed foods and haven't in over 40 years. We'll show you our food lifestyle someday in a different video if you want, but Frank and I are both in our mid-60s and have no medical issues except for lingering parasites from living 13 years in endemic areas abroad. We have no need to take any medications because we do not have any health issues or disorders or diseases. Amen to that. We're blessed. We were given the knowledge to stop eating processed foods years ago, and it has richly blessed us. Mexico relies heavily on processed foods. Did you know that? Have you been to Mexico's Walmart? Much of the food in Mexico's big box grocery stores like Walmart is imported from, guess where? The USA. The fact is, yes, Mexico is a significant importer of processed foods from the United States. In fact, it is the second largest importer of U.S. processed foods. So if you don't like to cook and are a processed food eater, well, it ain't no better in Mexico, kid. It's the same unhealthy slop as you get in the USA. Bottom line, there are unhealthy processed foods in every country of the world. You can choose to eat them or you can choose to not eat them. It's up to you. It's funny how people think they can just move abroad and get healthy, but that's not how total health works. You can just as easily get healthy in the USA as you can in a foreign country. First step, stop eating packaged processed foods and cook your own meals from whole foods. That right there will go a long way in your journey towards health. I could go on and on about other health-related issues with expats when they move abroad, but maybe some of these expats or citizens that live in these other countries might chime in and just tell us themselves right here on this video. We'd love to hear your experience. Bottom line is, if you can't peel, cook, or boil it, rule in developing countries, don't eat it. So you want to move abroad? Great, but don't do it for a health fairy tale. Do it for the adventure. But keep your eyes wide open about what you're putting into your body. The truth is, there is no escaping dirty food unless you grow your own food, raise your own hens for eggs, and raise your own cattle for milk, cream, beef, and cheese. Or you are blessed with wonderful neighbors that do it, and you can buy from them. Leaving you with a wonderful comment from a very wise viewer of our channel. Here's what they said, short and simple, but it's so true. True success is health. And we let them know, no kidding. Thank you for sharing that health is wealth. Take care and bye-bye.